Dr. Ismail Sise, and in the next 55 minutes, we shall be discussing on diverse issues relating to government. And as the government information minister, he is here to help clarify so many issues around the government. Doctor, good to have you in the program once again.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
We'll just start with, the government recently announced that it has imposed a overseas travel ban on government officials. Could you just tell us, who does this travel affect?
Well, it's not a recently announced travel ban. It's a travel ban announced in 2023. The recent announcement was just a reminder that the travel ban enforcement is still in place, and that all ministries, departments, and agencies must take note that the ban is still active and that we must comply.
But one will say at some point the ban was lifted. We've seen government officials traveling out of the country.
Yeah, but the ban says that only statutory travels are allowed. Most of those travels are statutory. Gambia has international obligations to many international organizations. Therefore, when there are summits and meetings in those ones, Gambia is bound to go in fulfillment of its international obligations. So not all travel bans, that's not a total ban. Only statutory travels are allowed, but also some travels can be justified. And that is left to the presidency to decide which ones can be. That is why everybody must seek clearance from the presidency and give strong justifications why that travel clearance must be given. But by and large, there's a travel ban in place since 2023. The recent announcement is just a reminder that it is still in place and it must be enforced, and everyone must comply to the travel ban, except statutory travels.
Reminder, does it mean that this ban wasn't effective, so you thought it was good to remind government institutions that the ban is still in place?
It was effective, but sometimes once in a while, government can come out and inform people of their obligations. It's just a reminder. First no muna daw, then kocha mogena muna daw.
But who enforces this ban?
The presidency, obviously. The presidency wants to ensure that public funds are not wasted in times of austerity, in times of cost of living crisis. The government, with the wisdom of His Excellency the President, realizes that to save taxpayers' money from travels that don't bring that point to Gambia, particularly those that are not statutory, and can be avoided, to save money and invest it into other sectors which are very critical, the presidency decided there should be a travel ban. And this is not peculiar to Gambia. Other countries have also imposed such actions, like Uganda, and other countries in the sub-region has also imposed such travel bans to ensure that we save public funds, to redirect and repurpose and invest those funds into critical service delivery areas like health and education.
When you talk about statutory meetings, the president recently was in Mauritania. Will you describe it as a statutory or something that's really important that the president should travel to Mauritania?
It is that, like I said, justification again. Okay. Mauritania is a very strong bilateral partner to the Gambia, and the presidency is the chief diplomat, and therefore once in a while he must oil the wheels of diplomacy. Mauritania is a very strong friend. They loaned us 100 vehicles during the OIC. The president came to the president's inauguration. He came to the OIC summit. Therefore, if the president is invited, we must reciprocate as part of our foreign policy. Such travels can be justified because of the diplomatic significance it can bring to the Gambia in terms of strengthening our bilateral ties with Mauritania. We cannot avoid, the presidency cannot avoid. That is why I said, case-by-case basis, some travels can be justified if it brings greater good to the Gambian people, if it is also done in the public interest. And in this case, the travel to Mauritania was in the public interest, geared towards oiling the wheels of diplomacy and promoting our strong bilateral ties with Mauritania.
But couldn't he have sent the vice president or maybe the foreign minister?
Mauritania is too important a partner to send a vice president. When we had our inauguration and the OIC, they did not send a vice president. The president himself came, and the support they gave to the Gambia during the OIC was huge, to the extent that the president cannot but go and attend their invitation from someone who we see as a very strong partner in the sub-region.
So what monitoring mechanism do you have in place to ensure this ban is effectively implemented? I know I've traveled and I've come across several government officials at the airport traveling.
Well, like I said, there's no total ban.
You know very well, how serious they take this overseas travels. You can invite them to events and they will say they are busy, but they are never busy for overseas travels.
I'll tell you how it works.
Exactly.
Some international organizations, some countries at the bilateral and multilateral level can organize events and invite officials from the Gambia, and it's fully paid for. So there are two levels here. Statutory meetings at the cost of the Gambia government there's no ban imposed on it. That one we can go. Travels that are fully paid for, we can travel. So there, for example, I might be going to China in a couple of weeks. It's an example. Fully paid for by the Chinese government.
For the FOCAC meeting?
Not for the FOCAC, the pre-FOCAC.
Okay.
It's a think tank, the China Africa Think Tank Forum, pre-FOCAC.
Okay.
Been invited to go there, together with 1 or 2 staffs of my ministry, fully paid for by the Chinese government. Air tickets, hotels, and everything. Those travels are accepted. So that was when you see officials traveling, it doesn't mean necessarily that the Gambia government is footing the bill. It is paid for by those who invite them, either at the bilateral or multilateral level. That's one. 2, statutory meetings, like UNGA, UN meetings, ITU meetings, ECOWAS meetings. These things are statutory, and we can attend these ones. But when it comes to, for example, these study tours, these trainings that really wouldn't have that impact, at the cost of the Gambia government, this is what we are trying to discourage for now.
And you talk about savings, this could be diverted in other critical sectors. You mentioned health. Do you have any idea how much we are talking about in terms of savings?
Well, I cannot quantify it for now. I think that one will be at the end of the year, at the end of the fiscal year, when they look at the savings that we can give those figures. But now I'm not in a position to give the figures as to how much exactly we'll see. But I know that due to the travel ban in place, we're going to save a lot of money from travels.
And how long will this ban continue to exist?
Well, until the presidency decides. So it came into effect in 2023, I think in November or December, and it is still in force. And this was just a reminder.
Or is it because there are no funds for travels now? So you are reminding them that, there shouldn't be any travel?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
The presidency feels that it is time to remind Gambia, the public officials, particularly those that have at the clearance level. For example, junior officers before they travel must get the clearance from the respective supervisors. Okay. When ministers have to travel, they get clearance from the office of the president. When junior officials, they get clearance from perhaps the minister. Okay. To remind heads of departments and heads of institutions that the travel ban is still in place and it must be enforced. And this ban, like I said, I think I must rectify myself. It was in 2023. December 2023 was 1 year. Yeah. So after, because it came into force, I think 2022 December, and after 1 year, it was extended and it's still in force, and therefore everybody must comply. Okay. And this was just a reminder.
Like you said, the travel ban is one way to make saving for the government. On the other hand, some people talk about the issue of the vehicle policy. Is there any vehicle policy at the moment? Because there's also another aspect where millions is being spent on fuel and all that not.
I'm not aware of any vehicle policy at the moment.
Okay. But do you think there's a need to have a vehicle policy?
Well, I think if the Ministry of Finance and the government think that there's a way to save costs, and they think that they have a way to implement it in a manner in which it is in the public's interest, but also not to affect the daily operations of the bureaucracy, I think it's something that we could consider. But at the moment, I'm not aware of any vehicle policy in place.
Doctor, are you sometimes surprised when you travel outside official working hours and you see government vehicles in some what we'll describe as inappropriate places after working hours?
What is inappropriate? Which
like you go to Senegambia, you see a government vehicle. You wonder, what is this person doing here? You definitely know that this person is not on official missions.
Well, I don't know. I can comment on that. So there's something that I don't see. I haven't seen any policy which stops public officials from using their vehicles after work. If that policy is not in place, then I see no. I don't see. I see no violation of any policy in that.
Like in your case, you are here on an official duty because you are here serving as a minister. If someone sees you driving at night, we really understand, okay, doctor is on an official mission because what you are doing is part of your job. But maybe others who are just maybe because you have fuel at your disposal, you are not buying from your pocket, you are fine with it.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I can comment on these issues. I'm not aware of any policy in place. And without a policy, I cannot really say exactly what should and what should not happen. Okay. When I speak, I must base it on policy. What people do individually, I cannot comment on.
Recently, we read a press release announcing that all the regional governors are being recalled to various ministries. Could you share with us the reason for their recall to the different ministries, and why are they back again as governors?
Well,
what strategy was being played here by the government?
The only strategy I know is to inject efficiency and vigor into the public service, but also avail the regional governance the opportunity to benefit from technical experience. Now, when you take DPSs who have policy experience and technical experience to the regions, they go with that expertise and that experience and that knowledge, which will be injected in regional governance, which is good for the Gambia. But also, if you take governors who have experience in dealing at the regional level, dealing with rural Gambians, understanding the situation, and bring them into the bureaucracy, it also brings in some experience and some perspective into governance. This is a wisdom by the government of the Gambia, a very good wisdom for that matter, and I think we must commend that wisdom of the president to do those rotations. It is not unprecedented. Jawara used to do it, Yajame used to do it, and I think it's good sometimes to rotate and share experiences and share perspectives. It is good for the
people
Gambia.
are saying because it was illegal, I mean, the UDP filed in a case at the court challenging the decision of, some of these governors, and because of that they were recalled just to serve in those questions briefly and send them back. Well,
people have right to their opinion, but I have not seen any competent court in the Gambia that has really made a ruling to say it is illegal. So until that happens, for me, I think it is a genius move by this government to ensure that we inject efficiency and vigor and rigor into the public service and in regional governance, and therefore these rotations are important.
So are you saying the appointment in the first place was legal?
Well, I haven't seen any competent court which has ruled otherwise. So for me, I think from my point of view, was a beautiful piece of policy thinking to do that. And I think many Gambians appreciate it. And now these governors have come to understand what happens at the policy level. When they go back to the regions, they go with that experience and that expertise.
Let's now look at the relationship between these regional governors and the chairman of the area councils. I mean, what's your take?
Well, I think all of them have their domain and their TORs. The governors are the political representatives of the executive in the regions, which is very good because they report to the president. The president knows exactly what is happening. The chairmen are elected officials who are tasked to do a particular job, so I don't see any duplication. I think they should cooperate, and they do cooperate for the interest of the Gambian people.
How, when you say they are cooperating, for example, I know in West Coast region, for example, I mean, the relationship between the governor and the area council has been cordial. I mean, to some extent, even the allocation of markets has brought in so many, issues. Does this in any way affect the work of the governor and the and the council? Cooperation
goes with conflict. How you resolve that conflict is important. I don't see any enmity. I don't see any adverse relationship between the two institutions, the governor's office and the area councils. I think they work together by and large. So when there is an issue which is left to the courts to interpret and the courts make a ruling, so be it. But I think since independence, commissioners have been representing the government. Before these commissioners, now governors. It was happening before, it's still happening when area councils are also functioning. So I see no problem in that, to be honest.
But some will say some of the governors, I mean, they go beyond their boundaries. I mean, for example, when it comes to the issue of markets, which falls under the councils, I mean, the allocations will be the responsibility of the council and not the office of the governor dictating who should get a stall in this market. Don't you think they are also going beyond?
I don't think so.
Because of the political difference, because maybe the chairman of that particular council is from the other party and then the governor is on the side of the government.
Well,
so don't you think that's also...
I don't see it that way. If a council builds a market, I don't see the governors interfering how that market is allocated. Okay. If a governor or the presidency or the government, the central builds a market, they should decide how that market is allocated. It's no business of the council to decide how it is allocated. It is supposed to be at the benevolence of the executive to hand it over to the councils or to allocate as they wish, and that is the difference.
But Dr. some of these things are very clear in the Local Government Act. It's very clear
What
there.
is clear?
I mean, the separation of powers, I mean, between the council and the office of the governor.
Of course, yes. What I'm saying is that if the councils, through their own funds, build a market, they decide how it's allocated. Nobody interferes in that because they build the market. But if the government of the Gambia builds a market, the government decides how it's allocated.
But that's the responsibility of the government. These are taxpayers' money.
No, the responsibility of the council is markets that they control and they build, not the market that is until the government builds it and hands it over to them. If it's not handed over to them, they have no control over those markets.
Okay. Let's now proceed. I mean, just last Saturday, the president was out to inspect, I mean, ongoing OIC road projects. I mean, some of these roads, I mean, they have gone beyond, I mean, the scheduled time for completion. I mean, because of that, it has really, bringing about mounted on bearings on the people. I mean, what's your impression with the current progress?
I think there's progress. the president, in fact, we should commend the president for taking the time out of his busy schedule to go around urban areas to get first-hand information about the progress of these roads. This road project is dear to the president. He's been to Bundung many times. Officially, you said 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times within 3 months.
Unofficially, more than 3 times.
Yeah.
He normally goes there without people knowing that he's there, and other places to see exactly.
He was there in April. He was there last month. And
exactly.
This month as well.
Remember also, the Gambia had not had an urban planning strategy. Therefore, the manner in which buildings are built and basic services are built doesn't conform in a manner in which you can now build roads without having to move them. Okay. It's very difficult to build roads, new roads or repair roads in an urban setting where urban planning has not been very good. Now you need to move the services, electricity, water, internet facilities, the fiber cable and so on and so forth, because you don't want to destroy them. That is where the problem is. Now also compensation as well, because when you want to expand the road, you have to break people's encroach into people's land, and you need to compensate those ones. All these processes take time. If you want to build a road in a rural setting, it's easy because there is enough space. There are no services before it. That is why most of the rural roads were completed on time, in fact before time. But in an urban setting like Bundung, Brufut, all these places, already there were existing services that are mostly under the ground, like the Nawek pipes and the fiber cables for Gamtel. These things must be moved. They are very sensitive, must be first moved, and you build it on a plan. That is what is causing the delay and the interruptions. But there is assurance that by November, most of the OIC roads will be complete in terms of the street lighting, the road itself, but also the road furnitures, all will be complete for inauguration. But
aren't you surprised that, I mean, some of these road projects, for example, Bundung, which is just 2.5 kilometers, has taken the contractor over 2 years to construct?
That's what I'm saying.
In fact, the president was quite disappointed during his last visit that he wasn't happy with the progress of the road.
That's what I'm saying, that sometimes these things are...
Even though we have seen progress, I mean, with Pabifore around Brufut End, but the Bundung road, the president was...
But remember, Bundung is a highly congested area. Bundung is not like Brufut, highly congested, the services the way they are. It's very difficult to really build a road in Brufut. These delays can happen, and anywhere in the world, road constructions, you can give a timeline which you think is possible, but sometimes they go beyond the timeline. But what is important?
But the same contractor who is giving the Bundung road is the same contractor who is giving from Old Joswan going to New Joswan to Joko, and it's the same thing that we are seeing there as well.
What is important is that we are making progress with the roads, and by November, the roads will be complete, inshallah, with all the fittings and all the street lights and all the furniture will be done. Yes, there are delays. These delays are unexpected, and it is not like it's the intention of anybody for these delays. They are unforeseen circumstances, and these things happen in road construction.
So, I mean, isn't it high time we also have our own national road construction company that perhaps the government could use to build most of these roads?
Most of the roads are built by the NRA. And the NRA is working closely with these contractors. Even in most developed countries, roads are built by road contractors. The government cannot...
Go back to most of these roads built by NRA, and you'll be surprised, Doctor.
With what?
Even the standard, the quality.
No,
I've gone within the KMC, and I've seen some roads which were being, rehabilitated by NRA. But 1 year down the line, you go back there, Doctor, you wouldn't believe it.
So if you believe
that tells you something is fundamentally wrong.
But if you believe that the NRA is not good at even maintaining roads, and you are now suggesting for them to be given the task to build new roads.
I'm not talking about NRA. I'm talking about maybe having a whole company, a whole road construction company, like you have Areski and others in this country.
That happens.
CSE in Senegal.
But government doesn't do that. The CSE in Senegal is a private company. It's not owned by the Senegalese government. Anywhere in the world, roads are given to the private sector because they have the competence and the expertise and the technical equipment to do it. Government cannot engage in building roads as well. That is not best practice.
Isn't it also a failure on the side of the Ministry of Works and NRA that the president will have to go every now and then just to inspect ongoing road projects?
It's not a failure. The president is passionate about infrastructure.
Or maybe is it because, the information that they're giving at the State House on what is on the ground, what is hearing from the people are not the same.
No.
Yes, the president might be in State House and then you think he doesn't know what is going on, but he's getting information. Maybe perhaps, the information that they're giving to him about the progress of these projects and what is actually happening are not the same.
But, well, that's an assumption. And
it's not an assumption, it's a fact.
It's a fact.
I remember the president going out on one of the inspections before the OIC summit. When he got to those one here, he was disappointed. Because what they told him and what he found out on the ground were completely different. Well, and even people who accompanied the president were equally disappointed.
I cannot comment on that because I don't have the details and the facts.
So meaning they are not giving the president the facts on the ground?
Again, I cannot comment on that. I don't know about that. What I know about, the president is passionate about these roads.
Yes, that we can confirm.
Wants to get first-hand information about the progress of these roads, and he takes his time out of his busy schedule to go around and get first-hand information about the progress of these roads.
Not disputing that fact, that he is very much passionate about these roads, and no doubt every now and then he will go out just to see what is happening. That we know. But what we are saying also, people who are given some of these assignments and responsibilities are perhaps not also doing what they are assigned to do. And because of that, they tend to give him false impression.
But like I said, I still cannot engage in assumptions. I don't know. That is happening. What I know is what I can talk about, that the president is passionate about these roads, is eager for these road constructions to be done and dusted, and he goes around to do periodic checks to ensure that progress is ongoing. That is what I know. What people will tell the president in terms of what is happening on the ground, I cannot comment on it because I don't know about that.
Interesting. Let's now proceed. We know, recently the National Assembly approved, the appointments and, of course, the pay scale of the Access to Information Commissioners, chaired by, veteran broadcaster and journalist Nena McDowell-Gay. What is their mandate of these commissioners? Now,
the ATI Act specifically identifies and stipulates the mandate of the commission. It's acting as they implement the Access to Information Act. Basically, what the access to information is about is that information is a right, it's a constitutional right, and because of that, there's an act to implement it, to operationalize it. Okay. When LUCC wants to have an information about how much the Gambia government spent on buying fertilizers, how was the tender process made, who were the winners of this tender process, did they deliver the fertilizer, did they deliver according to what they promised to deliver, in line with what was in the contract, and you want to get that information, you can write to the Ministry of Information, and there'll be a gatekeeper. The gatekeeper is the information officer. Normally, it is the permanent secretary or anybody he can delegate to play that role. You have to write as a Gambian to request for information, as long as it is in the public's interest, and as long as it is not classified for security reasons. Okay. Now, if you apply for this if you request for this information within 48 hours, we are bound by a law, or the gatekeeper is bound by a law in accordance with the Act to respond to your request, to say that we have received your request and we are processing it. And within 5 days, they must provide you with that information, or if not, they'll tell you why they cannot provide you with that information. Now, if you feel aggrieved that your rights are violated and the information you requested has not been given to you, you can go to the commission. So the commission acts as I wouldn't say a court, but as an arbitration, where citizens, when they feel that their rights are violated, insofar as access to information is concerned, they can go and take the cases there, and the commission will look at it and they'll deal with it. But also they will operationalize the ATI Act, basically.
In these commissioners, we have Nena McDowell-Gay, like I said, a veteran broadcaster as chairman. Of course, we have John Charles Njai, Ami Toure, a lawyer. We have Babukar Cham, and by Ami Toure, former president of the Gambia Press Union. Why do you think Nena McDowell-Gay is the right person to chair this commission?
Well, I don't think so. What I know is that when I say I don't think so, I don't mean I don't think he's the right person. Okay. What I think is not important here. Okay. What is important is the process that was adopted until they reached that conclusion. A key stakeholder forum was initiated. Okay. This key stakeholder forum included the Gambia Press Union, Tango, the Access to Information Coalition, and the Media Council, and the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of Information, and the Ministry of Justice. It's called the Key Stakeholder Forum. They put together a robust process of identifying the commissioners and the chair of the commission. And this process, which is so elaborate, produced these 5 qualified Gambians with an impeccable track record to be the commissioners, and then McDowell as the chairperson. Now, that is their job. Who does the appointment in line with the Act is the president. They give those names to the president to appoint. They made the recommendation, the president appointed, and who does the confirmation? National Assembly. It went there. We made a case and it was confirmed. So it's not like it is Ismaila Ceesay who appointed people to go to the commission. There was an elaborate process in place which ensured that the most qualified people are the commissioners, and this process was transparent, this process was accountable, and this process followed due process to ensure that we have these 5 people to be in the commission.
Is this a permanent appointment or is on contract?
Well, based on the act, the chairperson act is 5 years, and the other commissioners 4 years, extended only one more time, another 5 years, another 4 years. So it's not permanent. According
to the ATI Act, it states that all government agencies and institutions should have qualified and well-trained information officers. This might take time because as we speak, not all the government agencies have qualified and trained information officers to handle the information and provide it in
again, another misconception. The information officer is the gatekeeper I'm talking about. That is the permanent secretary or anybody he delegates. It's not like that should be, we're going to employ new information officers for that role, no. That is why now we are going to change the nomenclature of the information officers that we send to the ministries, to communications officers, to avoid confusion. The information officer, as stated in the Act, is the permanent secretary or anybody he delegates to play the role of the information officer. Now, obviously, they need to be oriented and trained to be able to deal with the requests and also provide information when necessary. And this training doesn't necessarily have to be a lifetime training. This is just orientation, 1 or 2 weeks training, orient them to understand what the Act says and what their role is, and they're able to deliver in accordance with the Act. So I don't see that as a problem.
Okay. I mean, resignation in government, particularly a minister, is something we hardly heard of in this country.
But not unprecedented.
Not unprecedented. I mean, we saw the resignation of the former Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, Hadija Tusi. Why did she choose to resign just after a couple of months as minister?
Well, as far as I know, she resigned on personal grounds. And she has a right to resign on personal grounds, and the president has a right to accept her resignation.
But, I mean, we understand it's based on dual citizenship.
Well, the information
she was asked to, to renounce one, which she perhaps thought, wait.
Well, like I said, when I speak with the facts I have. That might be the case, but I cannot confirm or deny that. What I can confirm is that, and in line with the letter that she wrote to resign on personal grounds, and that is the information I can share. Now, if those personal grounds has to do with dual citizenship, perhaps maybe, but I cannot comment on that. What I know is that she resigned on personal grounds.
Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Usman Ba?
Yes,
he was fired. Why?
The president.
In this case, it's not personal grounds. In this case, he was fired.
Well, the president has the right to appoint and fire in line with the Constitution, and the president relieved him of his duties, and that is as much I can say. The reasons for that I cannot comment on.
But are you surprised?
With what?
The resignation of the Basic Education Minister.
Well, in politics, nothing surprises me.
And now those positions are still vacant. Why? Is it that the president doesn't see anyone who is qualified enough to handle those positions?
Not necessarily. The president.
So why are they still vacant? Yeah, a ministry like the Minister of Basic and Secondary Education is a quite important ministry. Government
is a continuity. It's an institution. The minister is there to provide strategic leadership, but behind, if the minister is not, the ministry's work still continues. The permanent secretaries are there, and the ministry has been overseen by the Minister of Higher Education, Professor Per Gomez. So it's not like it is bereft of leadership. The president or the presidency is taking its time to ensure that they scout for most competent, qualified Gambians to be appointed, and this process is ongoing. And whenever the presidency has really found a suitable candidate, it will be announced.
And do you think it was even right in the first place to even split the Ministry of Information and Communication, which was under the same ministry?
Well, I think every government has a vision, and based on strategic vision.
I'm sorry, if this was just one minister, you could have handled both Minister of Information and Communication. I'm sorry, right now you're overseeing the Minister of Communication.
Yes, I am, of course. But like I said, I didn't know.
So do you think there was definitely the need?
Well, I wouldn't I wouldn't know the reason why, the rationale why, or the justification why. It was the wisdom at that time that they be separated for reasons best known to the Gambia government at that time, perhaps for strategic reasons, and it is done, and I see no harm in it. If there's a decision to fuse them back again, no harm. If they remain also as it is, also no harm. I think both works.
I mean, because the reason why I asked this question, because according to the laws, I'm not a lawyer, but according to, I mean, the law is that if one has a dual citizenship, the person cannot be a minister.
Of course, that's in the Constitution.
In your case, did you renounce your Swedish citizenship?
Yes, I did in October 2021.
Okay. Good. I mean, let's now move on. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I mean, there was a press conference convened by Pura, I mean, regarding some radio stations which are found to be violating, I mean, the laws in terms of their licensing. I mean, often than not, I mean, we describe the media as a fourth estate, and then we saw there is no thriving democracy without a vibrant media. I mean, share with us, I mean, what really happened? Why were the licenses revoked?
The Gambia government, since the ascendancy to the presidency of His Excellency Adama Barrow, has been one of the countries in the sub-region that is most friendly to the media. In fact, our scorecard in terms of press freedom has improved significantly, like unthinkable. So Gambia is known for press freedom under His Excellency Adama Barrow. We promote press freedom. We promote press vibrancy within the rule of law. Media houses must be licensed in accordance with the law. We realized that when I became information minister, it is under the media is under my purview, and I must ensure the laws are followed. We did an audit. You know, currently there is a moratorium in place for radio station licensing, and in consideration to lift that moratorium, we need to know exactly what's happening in the sector. We did an audit and realized that, in fact, most of the radio stations are violating their licensing obligations and are not licensed properly. Two, some stations, some people have been issued licenses and are not operating. According to the law, if you are issued a license to operate and you did not operate within 6 months, we have to revoke your license. So when we did that, Pura had already done their job, followed all the due process, did evaluations, went to visit all the radios across the country, and realized, and they came up with a list of the radios whose licenses have expired and those who were given license but are not operating. Pura wrote to all of them to start the process of how do you call it again? Renewing their licenses, and they were given until the 10th. All those radio stations that complied and started the process is ongoing. We are reviewing their paperwork to approve their licensing renewal. Now, those who were issued licenses and did not operate and did not give any reason to Pura why they should not be revoked were revoked, and those who did not engage Pura up to the deadline in terms of starting the process of renewing, they are also revoked, and this involved 5 radio stations.
So when will it be lifted? The ban?
Well, we are working on it. We want to make sure that we look at it again and ensure that first we have a backlog of radio stations that were processing their licenses. Once that is clear, we can now consider lifting the moratorium on issuance of licenses for radio operations.
Earlier on this year, I mean, you signed an agreement with 5 media houses, which you said is to promote the government agenda. What's your assessment of their performance so far?
Excellent. We've seen a change in the media landscape. We've seen a change in terms of popularizing government agenda. You've seen it in Mansakunda, our press conference, our covered live. We've had, and they are fulfilling really their obligations as per the contract. I think it's good. They are doing well. And I think the relationship has the initiative is a good initiative. It has helped government and given us exposure, and also making sure that we bring the government closer to the people. The gap that used to be there between what the government was doing and what the public thought the government was doing has now really narrowed quite significantly, and now government is more transparent. People are getting more information now thanks to this media contract. So I think it was a good initiative. In
a country with a quite good number of media houses, I know it must have been very difficult for you to identify these 5 media houses. Well,
I cannot talk about the process because I was in there. I came at the tail end of it. Already media houses were already identified and the process has started. So I can really comment on the process. I cannot talk about how difficult it was because I was in there to make those decisions.
Interesting. I mean, I say interesting. I mean, let's now move on to something. I mean, the president will always talk about the need for promoting peace and unity, about there can't be any development in the absence of unity. And for the first time we saw, he convened a national dialogue which was well attended by people from different sectors of life. But what is the prospect of this national dialogue considering the current climate of the atmosphere?
What atmosphere?
The utterances we're hearing.
In terms of what?
In terms of politics.
Well, it's politics. Like you said, in terms of politics, what do you expect in politics? Politics is about utterances. It's about people saying things to each other. That's politics anywhere in the world. These are the laws of politics. Politics, people draw the daggers when it's time for politics. When it's time to build a nation, we build a nation. So for me, I don't see this as a big issue.
So are we in politics at the moment, or we are in...
Politics never goes to sleep. Politics is always on. Politics is always on. So for me, I don't see this as an issue, to be honest. The national dialogue was a very brilliant initiative, and I commend His Excellency the President for really having the wisdom to do that. It's one of the inventions in the sub-region. No country does it. I think it was good, and I think it's very successful, and I think it has brought the people together. It has created cooperation and coexistence among political parties, and I think it's good.
But how has this dialogue bring people together? I would like to know.
What do you saw?
Because I know when you talk about national dialogue in terms of politics, one will say it has to start from the top. That's the political leaders.
Yes.
We should see that unity from the top.
Yes.
For it to spill down to the supporters.
Yes.
But the recent exchanges is not showing the sign.
But what exchanges? Siritiba used to have very bitter exchanges with Sadada Chakaraba Jawara. The same thing. So this is politics, man. What do you expect in politics, guys? What do you expect? For people to stay mute and not to go again, don't to go on each other? This is everywhere in the world. Look at Trump and Biden. Recently, look at Trump and Harris. How they are going against each other's throat. This is politics. What do you expect? So for me, I don't see. Let's look at the bigger picture. Aliu. The president has called for a national dialogue, which is very successful, bringing political parties together and their leaders to discuss nation building. It is highly commended in the sub-region, highly commended in the country, and I think we all must commend it and embrace the spirit of the national dialogue. And I think it is really successful. That is what is important for me. If two political leaders now go on a platform and go on each other, that should not really overshadow the good spiritedness of the national dialogue that involves all the other 19 or 20 political
So you are saying
parties.
supporters wouldn't take it that much serious?
Obviously, people can interpret it in different ways. What I'm saying is that this is not the first time. It's not going to be the last time. And I can assure you that His Excellency the President has huge respect for Lawyer Ousainou Darboe. They go way back, and the respect between them is mutual. And when it comes to nation building, when it comes to the Gambia, they'll work together to do it. When it comes to politics, they'll do their politics.
For the first time since President Barrow came to power, that we publicly hearing a theft case at the State House. Doctor, what are the facts?
Which one of it?
We understand there was a stealing reported at the State House, a theft case, where a senior security officer to the president is involved in allegedly stealing, thousands bags of rice out of the State House.
Well, some food items did go missing at the food store, and because of stringent measures put in place to detect such undesirable activities, it was uncovered, and measures are put in place to make sure that those who are responsible are punished, but also there is no recurrence. It's as simple as that.
But you must be disappointed that a principal protection officer, a PPO to the president, being involved in such cases.
Well, I'm not sure of the role and the rank.
It's still an alleged case.
That's what I'm saying. I cannot say it's the PPO of the president. I don't know who it was. Yeah. I don't know his rank or his role within the presidency. I cannot comment on that.
As we speak, he is being replaced by someone who was here before.
What I can comment on is food items went missing from the food store, and because of robust and stringent security measures put in place at the State House, it was detected, and those who are found wanting, measures are being put in place to punish them. Actions are taken, but also measures are put in place, extra measures to avoid such a situation in the future. Now, whether it's a PPO who did it or whether it was the chef who did it, for me, I don't want to go into those details. What I can confirm is that food items were missing from the food store. And because of stringent measures put in place at the State House, it was detected. And those who were found to be involved have been really punished. And then, not punished, but measures have been taken in place to ensure that they are not found within that area anymore. But also, measures are put in place, extra measures to avoid such a situation.
What are these measures put in place?
Well, I cannot comment on.
Well, if they can smuggle, if they could smuggle food items out of the State House, what extra measures do you think should be taken to ensure such doesn't happen again? It's quite disappointing, and I'm sure even the president is disappointed.
Well, I think in any theft case, even if people come to your house and steal mobile phone, you'll be disappointed, isn't it?
Especially allegedly coming from someone who is very close to you.
That's what I'm saying, that even when people come to your house from outside and steal your stuff, you'll be disappointed. Theft cases are always disappointing. Like I said, these things cannot be avoided. In some instances, it has happened. Measures have been put in place to avoid a similar situation, and we have to look at the bigger picture. The fact that it was detected and we know who did it, that alone shows that the security measures are working.
Oh, you know who did it?
Know what I'm saying? Of course,
okay.
They know who did it. That is why I said measures are put in place.
Okay.
If those measures were not put in place, we would not detect it, but also not know who did it. That would have been the concern. But as long as it was detected, we know who did. They know who did it, and measures are put in place. I think that we should look at that as a positive. At least those measures are working. Then, so the State House food is secure and safe.
Well, I know you can say anything from Barakunda except food. Well, let's now proceed, Doctor. I mean, there has been so much talks, surrounding, the controversial allocation of a land to the president, which is being described as his retirement home. We know last year or earlier this year, the parliament passed a bill on the former president's bill, which provides all these benefits for the president. But there has been so much controversy surrounding, this land. People are asking, does the president really need a state land to build his retirement home? Well,
what people say or think, I have no control over.
Okay.
What I have control over is what I know and what I can speak with certainty, that this government operates within the framework of the rule of law. Any land allocation done by this government is within the framework of the rule of law. And that is what has happened. And I don't think we should debate on it. Apart from that, anybody who has applied for land allocation and you get it, it means you fulfill all the criteria and that you deserve it, and the state gives it to you.
But Doctor, when you look at the issue of land allocation in this country, it is becoming more of government of the few, for the few, and by the few. Cabinet ministers are getting land, state land for free. National Assembly members are allocated almost a full estate in Unum, lands for free. Doctor, how do you justify this?
Are they not Gambian?
But Doctor, even the farmer is a Gambian.
Well, like I said, there are Gambians who are not ministers or assembly members who have also been allocated government land. They are Gambians. Like I said, what I can assure you is that this government operates within the framework of the rule of law and will not do anything that violates the rule of law. Therefore, all land allocations are done within that spirit, and therefore I cannot question it.
So anyone cannot apply for a state land and you'll be given?
Because
if a state minister can be allocated a state land, state minister, with all the benefits you are getting, you still depend on a state to get a land. National Assembly members, the same thing.
What benefits does the state minister? The state minister is a servant of the people. The state minister is a servant who is what I'm saying. Let's forget about the. Let's put
Understand.
let's put what I'm coming is let's put the function aside.
Yes.
Whether you are a teacher, state minister, assembly member, nurse. What is important is that every Gambian has the right to apply for land allocation. And if you apply, your application is not dealt with based on your function. It's based on the criteria put forward in the state.
But that also matters, the influence that you have.
No,
it matters, Doctor.
But what I'm saying,
if you apply for a land today and Yusufa Ture of QTV apply for a land, yours will be considered more because you are a state minister.
I don't think so.
And not just an ordinary teacher.
I don't think so. Like I said, I don't have any reason to believe that there's discrimination in the allocation of land.
Doctor, there's discrimination.
Well, I don't have any reason to believe. I haven't seen any evidence to that effect. What I can tell you is that every Gambian has a right to apply for land, and the ministry that is responsible will look at the criteria set forth by Land Allocations Act, and they'll give you the land not based on your tribe, your gender, your religion, or the job you are doing, but based on the fact that you fulfill certain criteria. And this government ensures that whatever it does is within the framework of the rule of law, and there are no violations to that effect.
What are the criteria and the procedure?
Well, I'm not at the Ministry of Lands. I cannot tell exactly what the criteria are. I think that is for the ministry responsible to give you the criteria. I saw some document floating on Facebook today about you have to be over 18, non-Gambian.
Yes, and if you are allocated lands one, you cannot allocate another one.
Exactly.
If you are allocated one and you sell it.
So exactly, so that is the criteria clearly and explicitly stipulated. As Aliu, apply. And if, for example, if you apply and your application has not been dealt with in a manner that you think is in line with the rule of law, you can complain. But apart from that, don't say because Minister X has it, so therefore I'm not going to apply. Apply.
How long did it take you to get your land, if you have any?
I don't have any.
You have?
No.
And you don't intend to apply for any?
No.
And what assurance are you giving to people who are watching this program? Maybe perhaps there's a teacher in Fonyi right now who's watching this program and is even struggling to, get his bread tomorrow. And getting a land is something, just a dream.
See, what I'm telling you is that...
What assurance are you giving them that yes, you are assured a land? Like I, Dr. Ismail Sise, or any of the state ministers or any of the National Assembly members who are giving a whole estate in Yundum.
This country...
National Assembly members.
This country,
yes.
This dispensation under the leadership of His Excellency the President operates within the framework of the rule of law. If you as a Gambian apply for state land, whether you are a teacher or nurse or minister or whoever you are, and you feel that you have been rejected based on something which is not within the bounds of the law, you can take necessary legal action. You can take the particular agency to the court to say that your rights were violated. It's as simple as that. And they look at the text and look at the application and see. People have to test these things sometimes. You cannot just sit and start complaining. Apply. Have you ever applied?
I haven't applied yet.
Apply and see. If you apply and you fulfill the criteria and your land allocation
but what are these criteria?
But you cannot
what
know.
What are these criteria? What is so... someone out there will be asking, what is so special about National Assembly, Cabinet, that is not so special about teachers and health professionals to equally get land from the state?
If you are a teacher or a nurse, go to the Ministry of Lands and apply. It's as simple as that. You see, you need to test the apply. You cannot say because National Assembly has it, therefore I cannot have it. Go and apply. I know many Gambians who are teachers and civil who have applied and they've been allocated land in this country. Loads of them. In fact, in the hundreds of thousands.
Can you give us an example?
I cannot name names. What I'm saying is that I know Gambians who are not ministers or national members who are Gambians who have applied and allocated land. Apply. You are a Gambian,
and now the president is building his retirement home. Are we saying this is final term then?
Well, I cannot comment
Election
on that.
is in 2026.
I cannot comment on that. As far as I'm concerned, the Gambia is
enough. So we expect a surprise? Is the president, he could just come and say, you know what?
That's not, see, the Gambia is enough term limits. And as far as we are concerned, the president will run in 2026 and we'll give him our full support.
Okay. Let's now move to the issue of power supply. I know you've experienced, several power cuts. On Sunday, yesterday, the issue of the power supply is a problem. What is happening? We have NAWEC, you have Senelec, you have car power.
So
why
you see, there are two things here.
Okay.
That's what they call generation, and that's the transmission and distribution. Let's say, for example, the Gambia needs 200 megawatts of electricity. Gambia can even generate 300 megawatts. Okay. That will not solve the erratic power supply because the T&D might before the transmitters might. I don't know exactly. I know that's a technical issue. I know that recently NAWEC is facing some technical problems. There's a press release to that effect. They are working hard around the clock to solve it.
No, that's normal. NAWEC's press release.
No, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that
I think every month they release one.
Remember, the Gambia has not made any significant investment in the water and electricity sector for many years, in fact, since independence. We are doing those investments now, and therefore, it will take time in these transformations, and along the way, you'll see some of these hiccups happening. The aim is that by 2025, all these problems will be solved.
And what is the issue? Because I remember in December 2019, the then Energy Minister Fafa Sanyang, who is now ambassador to the UAE, told Parliament, because I was there, that over $60 million was spent at the time on purchasing electricity supply from Car Power and Senegal's electricity company, Senelec?
Like I said,
how much are we talking about now? If we could spend about $60 million,
you need to understand one thing. You can even spend $1 billion and buy power, but the capacity to distribute, transmit and distribute that power so it reaches your house, if it has a problem, the power you bought is useless. So I'm coming. Okay. Our grids are old and outdated. We are now trying to modernize the entire grid, the T&D.
So how long should this take us to modernize this thing? This amount of money, $60 million US being spent.
Hello. These are capital intensive projects. You see, these things would have been done 15, 20 years ago. That is what governments do, and that is what this current government is doing. What governments do, they look at trends. First, they look at population growth. That and
the demand is increasing.
That's what I'm saying.
The president is targeting by end of 2025 there should be electricity.
That is why what this government is doing now is not quick fixes. It's to solve the electricity, water, infrastructure, problems, basic services once and for all, for today's and for the next generation. These things can take time. That is how governments work, and that is what this government is doing, because this government is visionary. Now, imagine you have a house, a 2-bedroom house and 1 wife and 3 kids. A 2 kVA generator is serving you, but you only have a fan and the bulbs, that's it. Jamano doh, you marry 3 wives, your kids are 20. Now you have a microwave, a kettle, an electric iron, and all these new gadgets that come. All of your children have their mobile phones. Your consumption pattern has changed. Therefore, you still maintain that 2 kVA will not serve you. Once you put it on, it will go off because of it will overload it.
But that's why
that is what we are doing now. This should have been done by the previous government. The previous government should have got the foresight to see population growth, to see rural-urban migration, that the way rural-urban migration is going, the way we are producing in 2023, 2025 will be 2.5, 2.6 million people, and the current infrastructure in terms of energy is not enough. They should have built that at that time. I'm coming.
Admit, doctor.
I'm coming. Just give me, let me land.
Yeah.
If the government failed to do that at a time, do not have the vision to prepare this generation to be able to enjoy it. What this government should have done now is to look at those same data and say by 2050 we'll be 5 million. Therefore, we need to start building the infrastructure for 5 million people. But this government is being given 2 tasks: to solve today's problems, which they inherited, but also to prepare for the future. And that's a very difficult task. And also to deliver a transition under the most difficult circumstances, a transition which occurred in a global environment that saw a pandemic and a near global war in a place like Russia and Ukraine that supply 20% of the world's food and most of the world's gas, oil and gas. It's a big problem. Delivering a transition in such an environment and trying to solve today's basic problems, water, education, security, infrastructure, healthcare for today, but also planning so that what we are going through today, the next generation will not go through it, is what this government is doing. Therefore, all hands must be on deck to make sure we deliver. Therefore, governments must be patient and understand that we are living in a global environment where supply chain bottlenecks are causing problems across the world. In Bangladesh, yesterday, people came out, the Prime Minister was forced to flee the country and go to India. In Kenya, an entire cabinet is gone.
In UK, England.
In Nigeria, in UK,
England
what's happening?
Moment, yeah.
In Hartlepool, in Cornwall, in Manchester, in Liverpool, in London. People are, because of the cost of living crisis, at least this government has the wisdom to foresee this and came up with very innovative policy ideas to mitigate the cost of living crisis in Gambia by subsidies in agriculture, subsidies in electricity sector, subsidies in energy sector, and also bringing innovative ideas to make sure that we stabilize the cost of food in this country. I think
Thank you so much, Dr. Ismail Assise. I mean, it's quite interesting, but I mean, we'll have you back to continue this discussion. Well, viewers, with that, we bring an end to this week's edition of your weekly State of Affairs program. I was your host, Aliou Cissé. On behalf of the team and myself here at QTV, thank you so much for watching. And if you missed this program, you can always visit our YouTube channel at QTV Gambia, where you can watch the entire broadcast. Bye-bye from me and the entire team. Ciao.